Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sim Experience South Africa. My name is Johan Karinus. I'll be your commentator for the evening. And we're back. We're racing V8s at Phillip Island. Really looking forward to it. So, I'll just, before we get into all of the driving, etc., quick look at the standings. So, currently, Danie van Rooyen found himself the new leader of the championship with one of his wins from last week. Well, the last time we raced at Oran Park. Dennis Mitchell also moving up a position ahead of Timo Smith. So Timo is going to be a man on a mission tonight, going to look at trying to regain that lead that he had. Melvin Goos going up one position from first to fourth. And then two others of note as well. Dylan Versaghi with one of his wins jumping from 7th to 5th. And Mornay Deploy also jumping two positions from 8th to 6th. So, yeah, quite a bit of movement, but it's looking good for this night's race. So, yeah, just running down them. Danie van Rooyen, Dennis Mitchell, Timo Smith, Melvin Goos, Dylan Versaghi, Mornay Deploy, Pieter Grobler, followed by Pieter Geldenhuis. Ian Upton, Rowan Bauer, Sean Webber, Mitchell Rust. And then looking to the rest of the pack, we've got Craig Wesley, Sean Johnson, Marius van Wyk, James Leach, Danny Stander, Rian van der Westhuizen, Gavi Goos, Herman Nieuwoud, Jason Craig, and Skalk Versaghi. So quite a few new drivers as well. Kind of getting their feet wet, and it's a very nice way of doing it. Looking at the weather, it's slightly cool for Australia, but we are in the southern hemisphere, so that is kind of to be expected. Track temperature within the kind of 10 degrees Celsius range hotter. We're racing close to the middle of the day, so that's kind of why the air might be cooling down a bit. But yeah, it's looking good for some good racing. The temperatures are nice for just some nice optimal tire grip. You just need to be sure that you don't overwork your tires too much, as we can see one of the drivers doing that in the background. So we're just waiting for everyone to kind of finish up their outlaps, and then we'll get going. Quickly looking at the YouTube chat, we've got Tommy Leary Moss shouting for the SRAC manner. So some support for those guys as well. And then if you're on the YouTube chat, feel free to say hi. Some shout outs for your drivers if you want to kind of support them. So, unfortunately, the track we're racing on doesn't have that much of a historic significance as Oran Park had last time. But looking at the history of the track, there was some racing in the Phillip Island area as far back as 1928. And then in 1956, or well, 1951, a group of 6 local businessmen decided to actually build a track. Kind of wanted to see if they can have a Grand Prix quality track, and then it took a while to build. They had quite a bit of grading to do with the track itself, so that kind of extended build times. And then I think they started racing in 1956. And unfortunately, with the 1962 Armstrong 500 they ran, the track actually got so damaged they had to kind of close the track off. It was repaired and reopened in 1967, and then they've had quite a few races after that. It's quite popular with the MotoGP crowd, so a lot of motorcycle races happening here. And you can kind of see that with it feels like there's a lot more fast sweeping turns in here, and it is a bit of a longer lap, as we see times coming in around the 130s. I'll just also quickly check if I can now just find the current session that's running. Um, I'll have to... Ah, there we go, with the live times. So... It looks like the 132.811 that's been set by Danie van Rooyen during practice. So he still has a bit of pace in hand, and we'll see what he can do with that. Jumping around a bit, let's see. So looking at Danie van Rooyen, very comfortable there on the track. So he's going to be the man to beat tonight. Very happy with. He's probably very happy with how the points turned out for him. And then another one to watch, as I said before, is going to be this guy here in the Caterpillar livery, Mr. Timo Smit. So he was leading the championship until the races at Oran Park, and unfortunately Oran Park really didn't agree with him, so he's really going to look at trying to get the best out of this. You can see how he's pushing the car up to the limit there at the back end of the track. Now getting some weird names in the survey here. I am not exactly sure who Alistair B is. That should be a new driver. The super cheap audio livery. So I've not seen this driver before. Not sure what Alistair's surname is, but he's definitely new to the group. And putting in a solid 133.794. That's a very comfortable position for fifth. We'll see what the guys can do about that. Also see a few gentlemen having some connectivity issues, so hopefully that gets sorted out before the race. I see the Discord link for SRAC is broken. We'll have to fix that a bit after the fact. So I just want to see. Just let me know if the stream quality is tanking a bit. I see there was some issues on my side. So just let me know if it becomes a bit unbearable. And I'll just make sure that I pay a bit of extra attention to that. I'll also just quickly see if I can close any unnecessary applications on my computer. But yeah, hopefully I can upgrade my CPU at some point so that broadcasting becomes a bit easier. So if you just give me a moment. I'll still be with you. I'm just quickly checking what's draining my CPU usage at the moment. Okay, seems like everything is back to normal. I apologize for that. I think I'm going to have a bit of a conversation, or a difficult conversation with my wife about my CPU situation after this. But enough of my troubles. Let's see what's going on the track. So, a man with troubles as well seems to be Danie van Rooyen. So, Timo Smit actually out-qualifying Van Rooyen by 9,000th of a second. That's yeah. I'll leave the F1 references alone for those of you who have not watched the race yet. But it's just as close as a certain someone was from getting into Q3. So that is quite impressive, Timo. So well done on you. And Danie van Rooyen is going to try and answer that as well as he can. But he has already outperformed his best they did in practice. So it's going to be a challenge to see where he can find that extra time on circuit. Dylan Versace also on a mission, looking to further advance his standings in the championship, and currently qualified in third, so he's going to be very happy with that and going to be trying to hold on to that as well as he can. Alistair B is also up in fourth, so really doing well for the first time that I'm seeing him here. And then Dennis Mitchell also looking at a chance to hold on to his position in the championship standings. So as I said before, this is a track that's primarily used or mostly used by motorcycles. I know it's also in motorsport it's probably also well used, but as far as I know, from looking at the Wikipedia page, there's a lot of motorcycle racing happening here. That being said, this track is available in other sims such as iRacing, so there's definitely also a good possibility for some fun motorsport racing here. The track, if I remember it correctly, varies between 8 and 12 meters in width, so not that much space. It's going to be really difficult for the guys to go for overtakes here, and a lot of fast sweeping corners. So it's going to be really, it's going to basically boil down to setting yourself up for a really nice overtake down the straight, or it's going to be trying to force your opponent to make a mistake where they take a restrictive line and you're able to carry the momentum around the outside. Looking a bit further down, someone that is a bit further up than I normally see him, Peter Geldenhuis. So he's probably been practicing quite a lot, and it seems to have paid off, putting him up in the standings. Unfortunately, he's still kind of getting used to that line that he wants to take through there. Melvin Goos, a man that's always ever present, and I know he has a supporter club around here. Then Mornay Deploy up in 9, maybe not as high up as he wants to be, but I know he's been quite busy with some of the video work for the series, and then also just in general with some other personal things. So he's going to have to really find his feet as fast as possible. So he's currently in the pits, but we'll see if we can jump to him when he's back on track. Craig Wesley, also one of the new-ish guys, and really enjoying himself out here, just getting used to the track. And I think after the chaos that was Oran Park, this might be a bit more relaxed in terms of the racing. It is a bit of a longer lap than Oran Park was, if I remember correctly. So it's going to be, there's going to be a bit less blue flags being waved for some of the back markers. And that's going to kind of give them the breathing space to just have their own comfortable race, because that's always a difficult thing when you've got some really fast guys up at the head of the pack. It kind of ruins your race when you need to start letting some people through. I do see that Mornay Deploy has come out of the pits, and unfortunately this is the curse and the benefit of knowing the commentator on a personal level. You are going to get pointed out. But let's go on board with him and let's see how he's dealing with Phillip Island. So I'll just wait until he crosses the start-finish line and then run you through his actions. You'll also notice on the right-hand side, I've got the performance delta mentioned there, and then I've also got the pedal inputs. So you can see in full throttle through here, just managing the car's balance very nicely, off the throttle, onto the brakes, and just roll through the corner, just sort of stabilizing throttle just to kind of sit the back end of the car down, get a bit of traction on the back end. You can see him kind of a bit late on the throttle, but just making sure he's got the car settled. This car doesn't have that much downforce, so you really need to be careful with not sliding out your back wheels. Coming down the main straight all the way on the right hand side, setting yourself up for what seems to be a right-hander here. So moving over to the left, right, braking at the 75 mark, kind of not braking but just a slight lift. Now full braking for the left-hander. You need to really manage, it's a very late apex from what I'm seeing. Then you've got another straight, some overtaking opportunities here if you miss your apex or you don't have enough momentum through the corner. We're now taking a bit of an early apex compared to what the rubber marks suggest, and quite a heavy braking zone, and then up a slight hill you go. Braking, just making sure that the momentum gets bled off up the hill, so that's going to be a bit less braking, and you'll probably be able to bring that down as the fuel loads in the car get lower. Fast right-hand bend, braking into a left, just rolling through the corner, so kind of just keeping the momentum up, stabilizing with the throttle, just sitting down that back end of the car, heavy braking down the corner. This is going to be a good overtaking spot and a good spot for making errors. And then again, just managing your throttle as you go through the right hand or the left hand corner, sorry. Another left hand corner onto the main straight. So it's going to be a tricky race. This is going to rely a lot on the driver's intuition and their feel of the car and how they can manage the balance. So qualifying ending, Timo Smit up ahead. He's already in the pits, so he's not going to get an opportunity to go for another lap. Jumping to Danie van Rooyen, he's still on track. So unfortunately not up on his delta on this one. And that does seem a bit slow through there, so I can't imagine that he's going to improve on that. Dylan Versaghi also majorly down in his delta. Alistair unfortunately just had a bit of an issue on track. Mornay Deploy running very well with 4 to 5 tenths up on his time. That can give him some really nice position gains if he can stick with this. So we'll keep an eye on him. So again, managing the throttle through these corners, you need to be very careful not to overestimate the amount of grip you have left. Now down the corner, heavy braking. This is very crucial that you don't bleed off too much speed, but you also don't bleed off so much. You don't bleed off too much speed, so you don't lose all your momentum, but that you bleed enough speed that you don't go shooting off into the grass. Now last corner onto the main straight, 7 tenths down. This is looking good for Mornay. And over the line he goes. How far is that going to jump in? All the way into position 4. That is a monumental position gain. So well done, Mornay. I'm really glad we caught that on camera. Looking there, we've got at the YouTube chat. Just a moment, guys. So fortunately, Dylan Versaghi losing it as I switched to him, so I apologize for that commentator's curse. And I'm just going to go onto an ad, and then we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. So we're ready for the race start. We've got the lights, everything going down. I'm sorry I don't have a better camera angle than this, but we'll kind of see the cameras update once everything gets started. Right, so Timo Smith, quick off the line, but not as quick as Dennis Mitchell behind him. That's going to put him under a lot of pressure. It seems to be that they're almost going to go, okay, at least just too wide, but Timo Smith taking the lead there in a bit of a stressful situation at the start. Van Rooyen following with Dennis Mitchell taking third and Mornay fourth. Mornay running very wide through the corner. That's going to open up an opportunity for someone else to come through on the inside. And there is someone looking up on the inside. Looking at Mornay Deploy, he's holding up some cars. He might have had, oh, and unfortunately we've got some violent accidents going on in the background there. That's Pieter Geldenhuis and Gavi Goos, it would seem. Or no, Melvin Goos. Yeah, unfortunately Melvin Goos finding himself in another lap 1 accident, and I don't think it might be his fault, but he unfortunately has the luck of finding himself in these situations. So hopefully both drivers are okay, and hopefully it was just a racing incident that happened there. Might be some cars just pushed off very wide. Rest of the pack kind of maintaining their positions. I can't really see too much happening around here. I'm going to jump back to the front. So Timo Smith already running away with this almost a second lead. So he's really looking for this win. He really wants to get back that position. Further back behind, Danie van Rooyen also desperate to catch up with Timo Smith before he disappears off into the horizon. And then Dennis Mitchell just following closely behind. And then off in the distance, we see Mornay deploy in a battle with Sean Weber. Already been having this battle since the start of the race. Looking further down the pack to Dylan Versaghi with a bunch of cars behind him. So that's Dylan Versaghi, Pieter Grobler and Craig Wesley. All looking at fighting for position 7. Unfortunately, that's going to be James Leach going off circuit, and thankfully rejoining safely. We've got another car that's gone off there. That's unfortunately Mornay Deploy running wide, ending his battle with Sean Weber. So I finally have an opportunity to just look at the YouTube chat again. Sorry, a lot of things just happened when I checked last time. So Rob van der Heeper saying, good luck Craig, show them how it's done. Another person there, oh sorry, that's again Rob van der Heeper. And then Gary Johnson shouting, good luck Sean and Dennis. So that's Sean Weber and I assume Dennis Mitchell. So good luck to all of them. Mornay Deploy seems to be fighting up. Oh no, sorry, that's James Leach falling down the positions there. So that is a bit unfortunate for him. Then Donnie Stunder and Sean Johnson having a battle here for turn 1. Sean Johnson on the inside and overtakes Donnie Stunder at the end of the straight. But there's a bit of a switcheroo, and we've got Donnie Stunder again looking up the inside, not finding the moment he really wants to have. But these drivers really having a fun little battle between the two of them. Up ahead, Pieter Grobler, oh sorry, just behind him. Yeah, there we go, Pieter Grobler. I just clicked on the wrong person, but Pieter Grobler still with a bit of a train of cars behind him. So I think it might have been Craig Wesley leading the pack a few seconds earlier. But a really nice little battle developing between the three drivers here. 3 tenths and then 4 tenths. Well, 4 tenths. So all the drivers at least within a second. That's nice and close. Also, up ahead, while we're talking here, Timo Smith has lost a bit of time and has had Danie van Rooyen and Dennis Mitchell catch up with him. So they are now within drafting distance, and I think we're going to sit here for a second. I will maybe jump to Danie van Rooyen just so that we have a nice view of the three of them. You can see here all the drivers very competent, taking a bit of a wider line than their predecessors, just in case the car in front of them is a bit slower and they have the opportunity to jump past. But one of the drivers letting up, I think Tim Smith might be getting the pedal down a bit. Major lock-up from Danie van Rooyen there. Remember, these cars do not have ABS, and they're heavy and powerful, so it's always going to be a tricky business braking in time, and especially if you have to turn that sharply. But through the S's we go, and nice and fast. You can see they can't really follow each other that closely. It's going to all come down to the braking zones, and heading into this tight right-hander, heavy braking, and again some smoke from the tires. You can see the drivers struggling to slow down the cars. But still doing well. Timo Smith, meanwhile, running away. He's finding his time again. I think it might be because Danie van Rooyen is a bit distracted by Dennis behind him. And it's always difficult if you're trying to focus on increasing your pace, but you also need to pay attention at what's going on behind you with this driver that might be looking for opportunities. Further down the pack, Mornay de Ploy, very close to Peter Grobler. I think he might have overtaken Peter Grobler. He's kind of fighting his way back through the pack, but and it's always going to be difficult since you've got so many good drivers around here. Mornay and Peter very close together. You can see Mornay almost losing it, having to correct mid-corner. That's going to cost him a bit of time. And that's just keeping Peter Grobler in contention for that position. So we'll see here through the S's, and then we've got the downhill right-hander. So it's going to be interesting to see whether Peter Grobler creates an opportunity for himself or whether he's just going to stick behind. So Mornay not running as wide as he can. I would almost think they would run a bit more to the left-hand side, so you open up that corner. Unfortunately, that's Peter Grobler jumping to the pits, and yeah, that's a disconnection. So unfortunately, I think Eskom might have cut him off, or he might have had issues with his internet connection. So that's going to give Mornay some space to really charge on ahead. Then looking further back, Maurice van Wyk also having a little bit of a battle here with Rian van der Westhuizen. And Rian van der Westhuizen having a really big lockup, and that's going to give the opportunity for Maurice to get really close. So Rian feeling the pressure here, but doing a really good job of recovering from that mistake. And Maurice also just managing his car's balance through that last corner. It seems that Rian has pulled a bit of a gap, so I'm going to jump on ahead and maybe have a bit of a look at Dennis Mitchell again. And he's putting the pressure on Danie van Rooyen, and this is kind of keeping Van Rooyen away from Timo Smith at the moment. So this is definitely something that Timo would wish for. Dennis Mitchell in the slipstream, so you can see how much pace he's gaining by just following that closely. And he might jump onto the inside here, and unfortunately doesn't have the pace. So he's going to pull in behind and maybe see whether he can make a move on the downhill right-hander. Unfortunately, do not have my track map in front of me, just due to the fact that I had to close down my Chrome for performance reasons. So I apologize that I'm just calling it the downhill right-hander. Yeah, unfortunately it is what it is. Contact between Van Rooyen and Mitchell. That's going to send Mitchell wide. But thankfully both drivers still able to continue with their racing and rejoining without too much of an issue. It does mean that Sean Webber and Dylan Versace are also going to be able to look at Dennis Mitchell. And more importantly, Danie van Rooyen is going to be able to chase down Timo Smith. So let's keep an eye on that time and see whether Van Rooyen is able to catch up. Renault Deploy is also slowly gaining a bit of time. Looking behind him, Sean Johnson also having a bit of a race by himself. But currently, the closest battle on track here is between Mitchell, Webber and Versace. With Webber being a bit of a sandwich there. So we'll see down the main straight they go very close together. No one looking for an outbraking maneuver, and it's kind of difficult when you're carrying that much momentum. And Mitchell just dipping a tire onto the grass, doing really well to keep his car in control. But you can see he's lost a lot of time here. So Webber 4/10 away. That is within the possible striking distance, but he also needs to be careful. He's got Versace right underneath his rear wing. You can see just how much space Versace is gaining there. And this is a really difficult position for Webber. So he really wants to overtake as soon as he can, because otherwise he's going to lose a position here to Versace. And the three cars basically within 7/10, if my 8/10 if my maths is correct. So okay, down the downhill braking zone we go. Is someone going to lock up? And unfortunately, I think that might have been Webber losing a bit of time, but not really opening the door for Versace. So they'll remain in this configuration or in this sequence as they currently are. So it seems like Timo Smith is actually opening the gap up even more to Van Rooyen. So we'll quickly jump to him. It might be that he's actually got some back markers that he's overtaking on track. And we can see Goosen, Fabi Goosen, Danie Stander having a bit of a battle there with Timo Smith in the middle. You can see Timo Smith coming past. Unfortunately, someone completely overshoots the track there. That was Fabi Goosen. And another one, that's Marius van Wyk, unfortunately also losing his position on track there. But just looking at how Timo Smith runs this, and the important thing here is to really keep an eye on what his hands are doing with the steering wheel and what the car is doing. So you'll see three here. A little bit of counter steer. Ideally you would not really want to have that, so the counter steer can show that there is a bit of unpredictability in the car's handling. And ideally you really want to know what your car is going to do through the corner. So let's see how a lap goes for Timo Smith. So into the first corner, just a little bit of a downshift lift and just managing and nursing the throttle through there, trying to keep your speed up as much as possible. Heavy braking, sticking it on the apex and then drifting out a bit wider as you hit the second apex. and then accelerate out of the corner as soon as you can. Easy flat out through this corner, no real need to lift. And braking what seems to be early, but I think that might just be the correct time for that corner. And you can see some back markers coming up ahead. So just managing the throttle through that corner. And you'll also have this back marker in mind as they go through the S's up the hill and then down it again. You can see him taking a bit preemptive measures for if that car loses control. Downhill braking zone, this is going to be tricky for the back marker. And that seems to be around from the race station. And he's doing well to keep out of the way. Giving Timo the outside line for a bit more momentum. You can see Timo just feeding in the steering lock a bit. Just managing, kind of responding to how much grip the car is giving to him. Unfortunately not his fastest lap, but that is how the challenge with having to pass back markers. That being said, there's always going to be a pause racing, so it's kind of the risk that you need to manage. But you can see him doing that very well, kind of making sure that if a car loses control, he's not taken out with the car. Jumping back to Dylan Versake, the fight is still going on. So we've got Sean Webber, Dylan Versake, and Dennis Mitchell all bunched up together. I think Sean Webber might have actually regained the position at some point. And Dylan van Rooyen is doing a good job of staying out of the way, just giving everyone their space. And then trying to continue with his race, so well on you, or good on you. Just quickly need to check that there is... Yeah, that is from the race station. Just want to make sure that I'm not referring to the wrong car. Dylan Versake getting really close to Sean Webber there. And just stick... Oh, and unfortunately, some heavy oversteer. He's done really well to keep the car in check there. That looked like a monstrous slide to catch. Down the pack, the rest of the drivers are spread out quite a bit. So I think we haven't really looked a bit at Sean Johnson. Oh, he's had a bit of a lonely race on his own. And sometimes it is just nice kind of getting your head down, get through the laps, and just hold on to your position as well as you can. Then someone that's quite new and also having a wide space around him for himself is Alistair B. So unfortunately, I think he might have lost a few positions during the race. So he's just trying to re-establish his rhythm and see where he can go from there. When I deploy back up in 6th, so this is kind of the position he's been sticking with, and at some point he's going to catch up with the party that's happening in front of him, which is going to be Dylan Versake and Dennis Mitchell. Also a big lock up there from unfortunately Sean Webber. Oh, sorry, James Leach spinning out, and he's returned to track, so he's going to try and have a bit of a drive back. So Versake closely followed by Mitchell, and then Mornay Deploy catching up with Sean Webber. So he's starting to catch up with this party that's happening in front of him. It's going to be really interesting to see whether he's going to be able to clear Webber here. Okay, I apologize, I've been quiet for a second. I've just had a bit of an error with my camera controls. So I apologize if the switching is a bit slow. So Versace definitely getting a bit of an advantage from the mistake from Sean Webber. Wow, that's quite close to a bit of a wreck that those two drivers got. 2 laps left for the leader, and Timo looks set to win this race. He's 4 seconds ahead, so unless he makes a mistake, he's going to be in good shape, and that's going to do his points a lot of good in the championship. But Mitchell on a mission now. He doesn't have much time. He has a bit of a gap to close down, and Versace is going to try and defend against that. So can Versace hold on for 2 laps, or is it going to be too much for him? See the brakes just glowing red hot with just the amount of effort that's required to slow these cars down. So Versace is creating a bit of a gap, and the rest of the field is also spread out a bit. Timo Smit on the final lap, and we'll quickly check just where he is on the track. I think that's, yeah, he's still kind of in the middle of it. So Dennis Mitchell knows his time is limited. He's only going to have a few corners to make this move. You can see him just looking desperately for an opportunity. He might go for the dive on the inside here. Doesn't have the pace to do it. And I think he's going to hold on to 4th position here and just stick with that. Just a reminder, after this we do have a second race, and it is going to be fully reversed grid. So I think that might mean that Pieter Geldenhuis is going to be at the front with Gabi Gous, and then Timo Smit is going to be on the back of the grid. So race results: we've got Timo Smit, Danie van Rooyen, Dylan Versace, and Dennis Mitchell. Then Sean Webber, Mornay taking 6th, Mornay Deploy, Sean Johnson 7th, Craig Wesley 8th, Alistair 9th, Van der Westhuizen with 10th position. I think he can be really happy with that. James Leach 11th, and then Stander, Van Wyk, Gous and Geldenhuis. So quite a eventful lap, but it's going to be really interesting to see how the second race is going to play out. Some drivers still on the track. I think Gabi Gous just finishing up, and then Pieter Geldenhuis in the pits. I'm going to jump to a bit of an ad, and then I'll be with you shortly. Welcome back, everyone. It's 20 minutes to lights out. Everyone's back on the grid. On the front of the grid, we've got Harvey Goos, then Marius van Wyk, Danie Stander, and Danie van Rooyen. All guys that are going to feel the pressure. It's a good learning experience for them. So all the lights out, we're ready to go. And unfortunately, that's going to be Marius van Wyk getting a very slow start. And we've already got someone off track and a major collision. That's sending one of the drivers off. I'm not going to be able to tell you who that is. But Danie Stander running wide. It's lots of drivers jumping up and down on the standings. So we've got Alistair in front, and then Danie van Rooyen with a big battle with James Leach. James Leach making sure he makes use of that opportunity. Lots of chaos here on the back end of the grid. Marius van Wyk holding very closely to Danie van Rooyen, and then a huge pack of cars. James Leach locking up in the corner. 3 cars wide. I think there's Dennis Mitchell kind of trying to battle his way through the pack. We've got cars sliding, we've got cars going off track, we've got cars locking up. Just too much happening for my brain to deal with. But we've got quite a few drivers moving up the pack, placing themselves in some nice positions. Wow, some good avoidance there from Dennis Mitchell. I'm not sure what happened to Morris's car there, but you could see him braking very hard there. So it might have been that he had a bit of an equipment failure, and that is a bit unfortunate. Danie van Rooyen just letting the faster car through, the pressure kind of just being too much for him, and he'd rather just make sure that he races a clean race than accidentally take someone out from overdriving his car. But he's fallen back into line, and I think he's ready to continue with his race. But a whole bunch of cars very close behind, all behind Dylan Pasagi, and then under pressure here from Dennis Mitchell. Dennis wants to have a good position here, and he clears Pasagi, and he's going to be able to charge up the pack there. Alistair 2 seconds ahead, so completely on his own here, but if he can utilize this gap, it's going to prove very useful, because he's got a few other drivers behind him that still need to be passed. James Leach making use of the chaos and holding on to second, and then I'm just going to jump here. So unfortunately, Van Rooyen, I might have had a bit of a spin there, or a bit of contact, I'm not exactly sure. Timo Smith charging up the pack, so he's now in 7th. I think the first lap he jumped up to 9th. So he really wants to see if he can secure the second victory. That will be a really good evening for him. Sean Webber also charging for position, and he's going to be catching up with James Leach here, and going to have a really interesting battle on our hands. James Leach really wants to forget about the incidents that he had in race 1, and he's doing well keeping in 2nd position. But you can see the pace of the front cars, the 134s, and we know that the leading cars are able to run 133s at least on race pace. So of course these cars are under full fuel load at the moment, so we'll still see what happens, whether these front runners are able to find an extra bit of pace. Then behind Danie van Rooyen, we've got Mornay Deploy, Craig Wesley and Sean Johnson, all looking at our opportunity here. And this is some really good racing experience for Danie van Rooyen. Van Rooyen running on the outside, Mornay coming up on the inside, and we've got another car there. That's going to be Craig Wesley looking for an opportunity, but not really finding it. And Sean Johnson also looking to see what he can do against Craig Wesley. Up the hill they go. Bit of a lock up from Danie van Rooyen. And it's always difficult when you've got someone in your rear view mirror. Down in the braking zone they go, and actually a very clean corner for Danie van Rooyen there. And that's going to allow him to stay in front of everyone. And Craig Wesley is going to have to catch him either with the draft or outbraking him into turn 1. So it's going to be interesting to see whether he's able to do that. You can see the cars braking into the 133s at the moment. Let's see what Craig does here. Is he going to jump out at the last second? No, he's going to stick behind. Rooyen darting to the outside and almost making contact there with Sean Johnson, and we've got Craig Wesley going completely off, followed by Danie van Rooyen, and then Sean Johnson gaining 2 positions out of that, jumping up ahead in the pack. So Pieter Geldenhuys and Dylan Versace in a bit of a battle here. And then Versace under a lot of pressure from Timo Smith. So that's going to give Pieter Geldenhuys a bit of breathing room. But Dylan Versace now having to defend from the previous race's winner. That's going to be really difficult to defend that. Mind you, he was also one of the front runners, so he might have the pace, but he is being held up by Pieter Geldenhuys in front of him. So he either needs to pass the car in front of him, or he's going to find himself having to defend. Well, the back markers just getting out of the way. Very nice of them. You can see the front runners running 134s, so that might be the limit of their ability at the moment. And then you can see Danie van Rooyen, I just spotted him running 133. And unfortunately, that's Pieter Geldenhuys. Not sure what exactly happened with his car, but unfortunately, he's been jumped to the pits. That's going to give a big gap to Dylan Versace, and Timo Smith is now going to find himself chasing an uninhibited car. So we'll see whether they'll be able to pick up the pace. Then Danie van Rooyen is also chasing Timo Smith. So I'm curious to see whether he's going to try and pressure Timo Smith, or whether he's just going to try and utilize a bit of slipstream down the straights and utilize Timo Smith's pace to his advantage. Unfortunately, that's a bit of a mistake from Timo Smith there, costing him the position, and he's going to have to try and regain that. So I'm not exactly sure what happened with him there. Looking at the YouTube chat, so we've got Vossenijn Gaming saying, "Go Melbourne, go Craig." And yeah, if you're on the YouTube, feel free to say hi. I know we've also got Gordon Hales watching on my personal Twitch channel. Currently, I'm just keeping that for archival purposes. But yeah, if you're watching on there, also thanks for keeping an eye. Then I'm just going to jump to Dennis Mitchell again, because actually, let's jump to Sean Webber. So he's caught up with Alistair, and we know he's been lapping with some fast times around here. So it's now all going to come down to how well Alistair can defend. And she also wants to see what's happening here, but unfortunately it's going to be a bit of a tricky. Oh, and I think that was Danie van Rooyen with some insane braking skills, and unfortunately that's James Leach going off. I think that might have been some damage that he got on his car previously, and making that car really difficult to drive. yeah, Timo Smith and Danie van Rooyen very happy that they were able to avoid the accident there, and I'm not sure how Danie was able to avoid that, but he was able to outbrake it to some extent. Back to the start, so Webber is now within striking distance, 6/10, and kind of just staying within that gap. On to 3/10, 2/10, so we might see a move in a few corners time. He's probably still going to have to try and establish where his opponent's weaknesses are, but up the inside he goes, and unfortunately Alistair running completely wide, so that's going to give Sean Webber the lead, and also a bit of a buffer, because now he's got a bit of an advantage over the likes of Dennis Mitchell and Dylan Versace. We'll quickly look a bit further back. So Johnson is in another battle. So Sean Johnson finding himself behind James Leach, and we've got Mornay deployed behind him. So Mornay seems to have had a bit of a rough race. Unfortunately, James Leach, yeah, his car does seem to have a lot of damage there. Either that's or he's had an equipment failure, but he's really struggling with that car. So Johnson now under pressure from Mornay, and you can see Mornay just kind of looking, positioning himself for if there's a lockup, just positioning himself for that dive up the inside. But he does seem to be managing the gap fairly well. We'll leave these two alone for a bit. Jumping ahead to Timo Smith. So that's the next car ahead of Johnson. He's very close to Van Rooyen, so he still hasn't regained the position after his mistake. And he's going to be kicking himself over that because it's such a small mistake to make, but with very, very big consequences. You can also see Alistair struggling now with the front runners coming up behind him. So we can see Dennis Mitchell also in clean air now. So he's been unleashed. He's got 3.5 seconds to chase down, and he's got 8 minutes to comfortably try and do that. Then going back to Timo Smith, looking on the outside of Danie van Rooyen, not going to find the pace. So Danie van Rooyen running defensive on the inside, slowing down quite significantly. You can see there 8/10 down on Timo Smith's lap time, and on Van Rooyen's lap time also 8/10 down. So this battle is costing them a bit of time, and I don't think Timo is going to be very happy about that. He really wants to get a good points finish out of this to really utilize the day's racing. Then further back, we'll also see Mornay getting very close to Johnson, but we'll leave them alone for now. And Mornay deploy actually making the overtake, so that's Sean Johnson running wide, and that's unleashed Mornay, and he's far enough back that he's not going to be a threat to Timo. But we still need to be, or he still needs to be able to kind of gain a bit of time for if someone makes a bit of a mistake. Looking around the pack, this is the closest battle. So Van Rooyen and Timo Smith getting very close to Dylan Versace. So they've set their differences aside for a bit, and you can see no real defending going on. So they're trying to catch up with the pack. They've realized that this is costing them too much time. You can see Timo Smith not really being as aggressive as he usually is. And that's always the tricky part of racing. Battles are going to cost you time, and if you battle too many cars, it might be to your detriment. So yeah, Timo Smith falling back quite a bit. I think he just wants to reduce the pressure on Van Rooyen to first just gain a bit of time before he starts attacking again. And he'll probably want to do that in around 3 laps time, I think. So Sean Webber still leading comfortably with at the front with a 2.5 gap, but it's down from the 3.5 seconds that Mitchell had chased down earlier. And Alistair is still in third position, so this battle between Van Rooyen, Versage, Van Rooyen and Smith has really played to his advantage. The rest of the pack all have their little bit of breathing room. And Renfrew Investor is running in 10th position, so I think that's kind of what he wants to aim for. And at the start, it's all about self-preservation. You don't really want to put yourself in situations where you can't really drive to the ability that is required. So if you start defending from past the drivers, it's going to put you under an immense amount of pressure. So sometimes you just need to pick your battles, let the passing cars through, and just focus on your own racing. And that's exactly what he's done tonight. So Timo Smith still maintaining that gap at roughly 8 tenths. So he's giving a bit of space for Van Rooyen to have a go at Versage. But at some point he's going to start thinking about overtakes, because we're 3.5 minutes away from having the last lap. So when the leader crosses the finish line, you see someone going off there. That is Sean Webber losing the lead of the race. He's going to be kicking himself over that. So that sent Dennis Mitchell into the lead. I think Dennis is going to be really happy with that. Alistair up into second with a 5 second. Oh, sorry, not a 5 second gap. He's got a 5 second gap between him and Mitchell. So Mitchell is looking good for the win. But now it's going to all depend on Alistair. You can see the train of cars forming behind him. The pressure this man must be feeling. So if Alistair can hold on to this, it's going to be a really good race for him. I'm really curious to see. So he's got a second gap between him and Sean Webber. So Webber also has a train of cars behind him. It's Webber, Versage, Van Rooyen and Smith. I think Timo might be going on the attack here. Is he going to go? Timo looking on the inside of Van Rooyen, not getting the gap. So he has to slot in behind it. He's lost another bit of pace. So he's going to really be frustrated with that. I can think there's quite a few guys tonight that are really unhappy with some of the mistakes that they made on track. And unfortunately, I think Sean Webber might be one of those that's really kicking himself, because he's always put himself in a really good position, and then unfortunately he makes a small mistake that just puts him back a few positions. But Alistair doing really well for himself. So Versage now looking at Webber, and Van Rooyen looking at Versage. So it's really difficult to say what's going to happen. But Van Rooyen does seem to be closing up on Versage, and unfortunately that's one of the drivers off. I think it's one of the back markers. Yeah, that does seem to be one of the back markers. I don't see other cars dropping down the pack. So yeah, I can imagine if you're back marker, this train of cars is going to be extremely intimidating. Because I don't know where you let them through. It's once you let one car through, the other one is going to try and come through there. Right, Versage very close to Webber. So we're going to have another lap of the racing, and then one on top of that. So 2 more laps at least. And Versage is really desperate to get this podium finish. Webber under a lot of pressure. He has to perform now. You can see there's a gap forming between him and Alistair. So Alistair doesn't really know this is happening, but I think he's going to be very happy with the result that this is having, and that means he's got a lot more space to breathe. So we're still running Webber, Versage, Van Rooyen and Smith. So Timo is also going to want to attack now, and you can see these cars are so close together. Apologies that I'm tying my tongue. It's the problem when you're an Afrikaans guy commentating English. Right, 2 laps to go. Mitchell leading the race very comfortably. He just needs to bring this home. Alistair just needs to keep up his pace. And unfortunately, Webber and Versage, I'm not sure which of them has to defend because there's just so much going on. You can just see they're sitting under each other's wings. So Versage really looking for a mistake from Webber. And this is where we're going to stay. Timo Smith is also looking at Van Rooyen. So a lot of battles are happening here. We're going to go down the back straight, I think. Yeah, down the back straight. And the only one really in a position to attack here is Timo Smith. So we'll see. Yeah, Timo's coming out on the back, looking for opportunity, not finding it, falling back in line. And we're still running Mitchell, Alistair, a major lockup from one of the back markers there. So they've got a back marker that might get thrown into the mix here. Versage looking out on the outside. Webber closes the door. Timo Smith still behind Van Rooyen. And Versage trying to look on the outside of Webber. And Webber defending on the inside, parking it on the apex. And now Versage has to defend Van Rooyen. Van Rooyen coming under attack from Timo. And Alistair is losing a bit of pace, so he just needs to hold on. The leaders on the final lap. Once they cross the line, yeah, it's 5 seconds. So I think they're very close to the end of this lap, and then it's going to be another one. The gap's opening up a bit. Down the downhill braking zone. Someone else falling behind there. Lock up from Alistair, so he's come into the mix. So we're still running Alistair, Webber, Versage, Van Rooyen, Smith. Van Rooyen falling back, he's under pressure from Timo. And Webber doing well to hold on to his position, so he's now in a position to attack. And we've got the flag, and Alistair just gets the second position. And again, you're probably irritated with me saying this so much, but your finishers, Dennis Mitchell, Alistair, Webber, Versage, Van Rooyen, Smith. And then we'll just jump to Mornay Deploy because, yeah, he's completely on his own. Has to avoid Timo Smith there. James Leach unfortunately wants to forget this day. But he's done well to hold on to 8th there. Sorry, I just need to write down the names. So I'm just going to wait for these guys to finish up, and then I'll probably go grab the drivers for interviews if they've remained on Discord. And then, yeah, behind James Leach, Craig Wesley also around on his own. Marius van Wyk also in a bit of a bubble on his own. And then Rand van der Westhuizen falling back to 12th position, but it's been a bit of a difficult race for him. So he's still done really well. Okay, I'm going to see if I can go find a driver. It might be quiet for a bit. I'll see you in a few moments.
Perfect.
Okay, so I've got the two race winners in the studio with me. I'm just quickly going to check my audio levels. So Timo, I just want you to quickly say a hi, and you must have probably been practicing this track quite a bit because you seemed very consistent in the first race.
That's the odd thing, I must say. This week I didn't really have a lot of time to practice versus the previous race that I really practiced a lot. And as you know, it didn't turn out favorable for me. So I must say the pole position for me was quite a bit of a surprise. I do enjoy this track though. I wonder if my specific car that I'm driving is not maybe adapted more to the long flowing type of corners. But anyway, I enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun. Luckily, with the first race, yeah, I could win my first race in the series. I've always sort of been second, third, fourth, fifth. So yeah, it's great to have a first place.
Yeah, and then the points are going to be a big help for you because you unfortunately had a rough time with Oran Park, but you've made a bit of a comeback with in the standings with the points that you got now. You're probably very happy with that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think if we had a bad race now, it was sort of okay, cool. Let's see if we can stay third. But it looks like we can actually challenge the guys in front. And big shout out to Dennis. I mean, he's been helping me with VR setups and everything from technical stuff to actual racing stuff when it gets to setups and all of that. So yeah, great stuff. And thanks Sim Experience SA for hosting an amazing event and series. I'm looking forward to the next race.
Yeah, it's definitely been a very exciting series. And then speaking of Dennis, we've got Dennis Mitchell with us as well for the second race's win. Dennis, that was one hell of a race. I know there was a lot of chaos at the start, and you probably had to drive through all of that.
Yes.
How was the race start for you?
Well, I got to that start, and after that, it was quite nice. Slowly paced everyone down. A couple of guys went off, but it was good fun. And right at the end, I almost went off. I got the lead because Sean in front of me went off, and then about 2 laps later, on the final lap, on that final left-hand corner, I almost overdid it, and I got full opposite lock, so I managed to hang on to it. But the tires were totally shot.
Yeah, no, I can imagine with the temperatures being it's not extremely high, but it's still quite warm. Yeah, it was a 38 degrees track temperature, so that's kind of probably ideal for what you would want.
Yeah, these cars are great fun. Unfortunately, the tires go off with probably 5 laps to go. And from then on, it's just hanging on to it as best you can.
Yeah, and I've seen quite a few guys locking up and kind of putting a bit of wear on their tires. And then I saw Alistair behind you, so he kind of didn't really defend that hard against Sean Webber, and probably also not that much against you. But then he provided you with a really good buffer behind you again, because there was if you're going to watch the stream afterwards, there was a train of I think 4 or 5 cars all battling for position.
Yeah,
Were
it is
you
great
aware of
fun.
that, or?
Yes, I was watching my mirrors and watching what was happening behind. The guys, their lap times were extremely good in the race. Timo was on a different planet in race 1, but in race 2, it seemed like everything was a bit more neutralized. And everyone sort of seemed to make a pass and then not actually pull away. So it was more because of mistakes that you got actually away from someone.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a few guys, and I think Sean Webber is going to kick himself about making that mistake. Um, because yeah, the battle was between the two of you, and then that gave you a really good opportunity, and you made good use of it.
Yeah, it was good fun and nice to have all the guys being so close time-wise as well. Made for good racing.
Yeah, and it was quite fun to commentate, especially at the end. So yeah, that's everything for tonight. Thanks for being with me in the interviews, Timo and Dennis. And
Thank you,
then
and congratulations to Timo on his race 1 win.
Yeah, thanks for hosting, and likewise, well done with the win, Dennis.
Thank you.
it's always nice seeing such good sportsmanship. So yeah, for everyone watching on the YouTube channel, thank you very much. It's been awesome having you. To our sponsor, Alwyn, I just want to thank you again for making this possible. You can see the logo there up on the screen, and then you can see Skinny Media. That's Mornay Deploy. We featured him a bit on the stream tonight. So you're also welcome to give him a view on Instagram. I think he's got an Instagram account. And then, yeah, thank you very much. Next week, we're going to be racing Eastern Creek. So that's always going to be an interesting race. And we'll see you then. Thank you very much.